A real pleasure to be here to be introducing this. And I was at the previous roundtable as well. Thank you to those women for all their lovely contributions. I had one big, strong takeaway from that session, which was the best policies lead to the best practice. It was a really strong message that organizations that had policies in place actually had better outcomes for women and non-binary people. It's something I'm very interested in as a diversity consultant who's been working across the industry for some 30 years or more. I ask these questions about who recognises the importance of gender, race, disabilities, sexual orientation representation on screen. Who gets to tell the stories? Where does power come into play with it all? So we're going to explore that with our panelists. We've got a couple of them with us here right now. We have, who do we have? I have Melanie Iredale here, who is audience and talent development strategist and director of Reclaim the Frame. And Reclaim the Frame is the UK's campaign for gender justice in cinema. Welcome, Melanie. And we also, I think we're joined by one other person at the moment, and that's Lee Meyerhoff. Hello, Lee. Lee is founder of Film Fatale. That's the US-based arts organization supporting a community of feature film and television directors of all marginalized genders. I will say now, I think that we're going to be joined, we hope, by two other panelists. We're going to be joined by Jerry Lee Polanco. I saw her earlier, so I know she's going to be coming along. The founder of Kilari Cine Club, Cine Lab, sorry. It's a Colombian community working to develop a trusted space for the empowerment of women in film through research and training and outreach. And I hope we will also be joined by Salima Jarari, who's also a diversity consultant like me, working in production. There's Salima arriving. That's exciting. Working with production companies and organizations on project development, DEI policy, design, and representing DONE's Visuals and Spanish Film Academy. Welcome, Salima. We've just done the introductions. So the format will be very similar. If you joined our earlier session, we'll hear a little bit from just shy of 10 minutes perhaps from each of our panelists, and then we'll have time for some discussion amongst the panelists, and then finally a Q&A. And we're going to start, if we're ready, I think, by asking, first of all, before you begin your presentation, Lee, could you tell us about the film or a book that has inspired you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question, and one of my early inspirations was a book and a film, which was The Virgin Suicides. But the film in particular by Sofia Coppola really showed me a new language of cinema and a new way of just approaching the world artfully. So I am excited to reread it and rewatch it. Behind the scenes, the wizards back there, I think someone's going to begin by playing a video. The creation of film fatales tapped into a need that directors have for community and support. Hi, my name is Leah Meyerhoff, and I am the founder of Film Fatales. What began as a dinner party of 6 filmmakers in New York has expanded into an epic social movement, with dozens of groups of directors around the world getting together every month to mentor each other, collaborate on projects, share resources, and build a supportive environment in which to get our films made and seen. Independent filmmaking can be incredibly lonely, and the statistics are daunting.
We're a great example of what it is to be truly an assist to a movement. You know, as we keep saying, the future's female, the future's female. It's like they're going to be looking to, okay, so how are you doing it?
Film Fatales hosts hundreds of master classes, panel discussions, networking events, writing groups, and mixers around the world. In a concrete and actionable way, the Film Fatales programming team helps more films directed by women reach wider audiences by recommending them to film festivals, distributors, industry labs, and directing jobs. Members of Film Fatales have gone on to win Emmys, Golden Globes, and Academy Awards. But we can't do this alone. There's strength in numbers, and there's solidarity in identifying as a film fatale.
It's important for all of us to be able to see ourselves within the media. And so far, we haven't had that chance.
By supporting Film Fatales, anybody who would be interested in supporting is ending up supporting more than one project, more than one artist, but a collective.
Film Fatales is, and it sounds cliche, but it's girl power. The only way that we're going to bridge the inequality gap is to keep us in the game and to keep fighting and advocating for us.
I want to be on a set, I want to be on a television crew where the shooter is a woman, where the sound person's a woman, where the director is a woman. I mean, it doesn't have to be all women, but I'd like to see some diversity.
You know, we're living in a society now where there's systemic and structural racism as well as systemic sexism. I think we have to pave the way for other filmmakers who will come after us. You know, if you fund Fatales, you're really funding a movement. You're supporting a future of filmmakers.
Please join us. One of us can reach back and lift another one of us up, who can reach back and help another one. And we can keep pulling each other up this ladder until eventually we are at the top.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
So yes, that was my past self, and here is my present self. I will tell you all a little bit more about the origin of Film Fatales and where we are today. Film Fatales is an arts organization that advocates for equity in entertainment and supports a professional community of mid to late career feature film and television directors of all marginalized genders. We also support a wider community of emerging filmmakers, short filmmakers, and above and below the line crew. So like you saw in the video, we began a decade ago as a dinner party of 6 filmmakers in New York, many of whom have gone on to do amazing things. Paula Mendoza co-founded the Women's March. Raru So-Young just directed her 3rd studio feature. Deborah Kampmeyer is having a 2nd career directing television. But this group of 6, at the end of that dinner, one of them said, "This was so deeply empowering. I'll host the next one next month." And then someone else said, "I'll host the next one next month." So it became this rotating series of dinners. And 6 months in, we had a waiting list, hundreds of names long. So organically, the community expanded to a dozen other cities around the US, from Los Angeles to San Francisco, Atlanta, Boston, Portland, and then to other countries as well, up to Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Costa Rica, Brazil, London, Istanbul, Cape Town, Australia. In that time, I was traveling with a feature film that I had directed, somewhat inspired by the Virgin Suicides, called I Believe in Unicorns. And every Q&A that I did, I would encourage the creation of local groups of filmmakers who shared our mission to join this movement. We are now thousands of members around the world, each of whom have directed at least one scripted feature-length film, long-form documentary, or an episode of television that's been publicly released. And all of whom, I think, share our solidarity. There's a real strength in solidarity and a comfort in community. Oh, and there's a poll happening. So I'll give everyone a moment to answer that poll. I will say that over the years that Film Fatales has continued to expand and grow, Hollywood has not caught up with us. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which has some depressing statistics. There we go. Which have just been dire and daunting, and over the past decade have not budged. So even though anecdotally it feels like, at least in my circle, more and more women and non-binary filmmakers are making amazing films, they're not cracking that glass ceiling. The stats in the US today are hovering between 4 and 6% of the 100 top grossing feature films. It's around 4% of those are directed by women, less than 0.1% by trans and non-binary filmmakers. So although the core value of community building
is still at the heart of what Film Fatales does. Our approach has changed, and we are now focused on widening the pipeline and expanding access and opportunity, right? It's not a lack of talent, it's a lack of opportunity and access. So we now host a variety of educational events, mentorship circles, artist development platforms, and programs that are centered around career sustainability. So to tell you a little bit more about what we have currently going on, Pulling Focus is the umbrella for our educational event series, in person and online. We host dozens, I want to say it's been hundreds of events by now, at major film festivals. We'll do panels and mixers at Sundance, South by Southwest, Tribeca, Toronto, Berlin, Cannes. Sometimes they're small, intimate brunches or dinner parties, going back to that core community building ethos. And sometimes they're very large events for 500 to 1,000 participants. We also do large networking events in major cities, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. We have one coming up at the end of the month in collaboration with other groups and above and below the line crew. Always centered around the idea that if we can diversify the voices behind the camera, organically, we will see more inclusivity on screen as well. So in addition to all these in-person events, we also host monthly online webinars, and those include master classes, panels, networking mixers. We have a mental health series for artists. All of these events, the majority of them are open to the public. Our online events are recorded, and you can watch them in our webinar library on our website. We also have a streaming library, which is an audience building initiative that makes feature films directed by women and gender expansive filmmakers more accessible to the general public, features that are streaming online. We have a podcast that serves a similar purpose. And then Fatales Forward is our mentorship program, which is a series of mentorship circles that's lifting up the next generation of storytellers. Our most recent of which has been focused on supporting transgender filmmakers of color. 3 months of one-on-one mentorship, a weekend intensive of panels and guest speakers, master classes, and then it culminates in a showcase where we share out the work that the filmmakers have been making to the public. And then our core flagship initiative is called the Parity Pipeline. And this serves as a talent and content discovery platform for connecting marginalized filmmakers with industry allies who are in a position to support their work. We function as the connective tissue between filmmakers who have projects seeking funding, seeking distribution, and then we work with film festivals, production companies, different allied organizations around the world, helping move their projects forward. So hundreds of filmmakers add their projects into this searchable directory, short films, feature films, scripted, documentary, from development all the way through distribution. And then our programming team uses this database to recommend these projects for funding and distribution opportunities. And each film has a profile where we're able to go in there and not only search by the content, is it a horror film? Is it a social justice doc? But also by the demographics of the filmmaker, which is key, so that we are doing this work behind the scenes to support the most marginalized voices. We're like a mission-driven management company, connecting filmmakers from marginalized backgrounds with industry gatekeepers who can fund and support their work. And those industry allies also have direct access to these project profiles and can reach out directly to offer grants, financial support, and again, distribution opportunities. So we've been quietly working behind the scenes for about 5 years now, deepening our relationships with Hollywood networks and studios, with individual production companies, helping them hire more equitably. And we work with around 150 film festivals around the world, helping them program more inclusively as well. So even though those Hollywood depressing statistics aren't budging. We have seen a lot of traction, a lot of movement in the independent film space, which is really exciting and rewarding, and dozens of success stories. Isabel Sandoval, who was just in the video, went on to become the first trans woman of color to screen her feature at the Venice Film Festival. She got distribution with Array. She's now directing television. She has a new feature that's out now that's a beautiful film. I could go on, but the parody pipeline is really where my heart is in moving the needle and changing the ratio to, now that we've built this community of women and gender expansive filmmakers, how do we continue to support them so their careers can be sustainable? So thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to talking further. Back to you, Femi.
Thank you so much for that, Lee. I heard such good stuff there. Something about being mission driven sounds brilliant. And I'm going to nip that little bit of alliteration there. The parity pipeline is definitely going to be a thing for me. Thank you so much. Let's go on to our next speaker now. I have already introduced you, Melanie. I hope you heard it from Reclaim the Frame. Melanie Ardell, you've got a presentation, don't you?
I do. Hi. And thank you to Seema and all the organizers for inviting me. And Lee, just to say it was really great to hear more about Film Fatale, and it sounds like what you're doing is so brilliant. So yes, I'm gonna share my presentation. So yeah, as Fanny says, I'm from Reclaim the Frame, and we're the UK's campaign for gender justice in cinema. Starting to work increasingly a little internationally, but this is quite a kind of UK. This is very much an overview of the kind of status quo in the UK and our work here to shift the dial on that. So who we are, sorry, let me start my timer. So we were founded just over 20 years ago as what was known as Bird's Eye View Film Festival. So it started out as an annual women's film festival that used to run out of BFI South Bank and in London, around International Women's Day every year. And that was back when it was kind of set up in response to the fact that the number of films that were directed by women, or rather the percentage of films that were directed by women at the time was around 7%. I'm going to come on to some better but not better enough stats, but if we and that's a kind of get together shot from when we celebrated 20 years from the first Bird's Eye View film festival just last year. So it's some of the founding team together with some of the current team, but we'll wind forward 20 years plus. Our mission remains really the same, to champion films by women and now filmmakers of all marginalized genders, to grow audiences for them through conversation and through community building. And our work takes, let me go back. Our work takes kind of three forms. Through championing films through our kind of public-facing new release campaign work, so supporting films on their theatrical run. Number two is through our training, mentoring, talent development programs, which I'll focus on less, but we do those. And third is through kind of research and advocacy. So I'm going to start with the research because, this is going to be like the 10th set of depressing stats that you've all seen today. But just to share with you the kind of picture in the UK, and also the kind of why we exist and why we still have to exist as a charity that sort of strives not to, if you like. So we've been monitoring, we're the organisation that monitors for the UK, not what's getting made, but what's getting seen, and specifically seen in terms of theatrical distribution. So what we're tracking is what gets picked up for theatrical distribution in the UK. We're not monitoring what's getting picked up for streaming. But when I say theatrical distribution, we're talking, of course, UK titles and international titles. And that figure has actually, as of last year, just gone down. So we were kind of making, I won't bore you with like the ins and outs of these graphs, but basically we were making very, very slow, but at least steady progress since 2017 when we started mapping this. And as of last year, the number of films picked up for theatrical distribution in UK and Ireland that was directed or co-directed by a woman or non-binary director or directors actually went down 5% to 16%, so down from 21% to 16%. So that's roughly where we're at. The number of films that are directed or co-directed by Black or women of color, or non-binary filmmakers, sorry, of color, is going up. That's gone up to 7% in the UK, but from the lowest of bars. So this, oh, sorry, I'm not sure why it's. Sorry. So if we are to kind of project forwards, we're looking at 2051 until we reach kind of so-called parity in the UK for the number of films that are reaching UK screens by women, which is actually in the UK also, it coincides with the year that we are projected to reach parity in terms of pay. And I do think there's a correlation there. And 2114 into if we're looking at screenwriters, which was a a lot of us aren't going to live to see. And I guess likely this is kind of our starting point at Reclaim the Frame, where our interest very much is looking at marginalized perspectives in cinema in terms of kind of behind the camera. So we're particularly looking at writer, director, maybe in the case of documentaries, particularly producer, and with a remit to support specifically women and all marginalized gender filmmakers, and obviously looking at that kind of intersectionally. And as Lee says, we sort of come from a kind of firm belief that organically that will and does affect representation on screen. But our starting point is very much kind of behind the camera. And also not only what's on screen, but there's strong statistics to show that if you point a woman writer or director or producer, then it also affects the stats around who's working on the film in a HOD kind of capacity. So what we do, as I said, training, mentoring, talent development, screening events and audience building, curation and consultancy, research on and advocacy. I'm going to speak more to our kind of remit, or rather, I guess in terms of the exhibition work that we do, how we're set up is we work with UK distributors to support women or marginalized gender written or directed films, and help those films to launch into the market by doing preview events, by creating like promotional campaigns, by building audiences, curating conversations, producing editorial, where the sort of connection between the distributors and the network of cinemas that we work with around the UK. And we get asked a lot by distributors, particularly, maybe a kind of to kind of unpick our remit a bit, because I think, to be honest, we often get asked if our interest is in female-led stories, as in female-led on screen, or female character-driven stories. And that often is the case in the films that we support, but that's not our starting point. So, as I say, our interest is in authorship, and again, women, non-binary, trans, intersex, agender, etc., and from an intersectional lens. But our interest is in perspective over representation. We don't think that films necessarily need to be female or non-binary centered in terms of what's on screen. We believe really firmly that women, non-binary, trans, intersex, etc. directors and writers should be able to tell, make the films that they want to make in the way that they want to make them. I am, I've been in this role for 4 years. I still don't know what, a woman's film is, or and kind of kick against this idea of like women's issue films in that, in the sense that I think, there's a tendency to box people in to only tell films about their lived experience, whereas sorry, that's me out of time. Which of course they should be able to do, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something that they're boxed in to doing. So our slate is a really diverse one. We, across the kind of slate of what we'll support in any given year, which is usually around 20 titles, we're really interested in a kind of diverse makeup of who's telling those stories. Also really interested to make sure that we're representing global films from the global south, which get a chance to get seen in the UK all too seldom. I think I've got a slide just on a range of some of the titles that we've supported. And it's a pretty easy equation, but when there's diverse perspectives behind the camera, we see diversity represented on screen organically. And therefore, part of our purpose is also about audience building and helping enable audiences to feel what we call like seen on screen. So many of our audiences would consider to be underserved, as this is just kind of a bit of a kind of makeup of our average audience. Averages around our audience over the course of a year. This is for like Reclaim the Frame events in the 16 cities in which we operate. And this is the impact that it has, that sharing marginalized perspectives in cinema has on the audiences who come to Reclaim the Frame events, and through presenting films with care, with all of the kind of access provision in place and kind of inclusionary measures that we put around our screenings, and through the people who come and the community that they build and so on. As I say, like 96% here of people who say that they rarely come to the cinema feel included at Reclaim the Frame events. That's all from me.
Okay, I was going to say to people, just screen print that so you can get in touch, but no doubt Melanie will put a link into the chat panel for you so that you can do that. And also, I'd like to invite Melanie, please, to talk to us just briefly about a book or film that has inspired you.
Yes. So I'm gonna give a shout out to a film called Rebel Dykes. It's not like one that inspired me early days. It's only a few years old. And it's a film that I had privilege of being involved with a little as a mentor and then as an exec. But I think for me, in terms of if we're going to talk about on-screen representation, it's a film about it's a documentary about a group of lesbian artists and activists in 1980s London, who kind of paved their own path. And I think we just so seldom see older, lesbian and queer women on screen. And also the film is made by an entirely female or queer and non-binary, and it's just got so much energy. And
Thank you. I've put a link into the chat so that anyone who's here wants to go and check it out a little bit more. I would absolutely agree with you on that one. Thank you so much. This is good, although that figure about 2057 was a bit alarming. We need to do something about the trajectory to parity. I'm actually kind of getting my little policy and strategy all worked out here together. Let's move on to our next speaker, our next contributor, Salima Jirari. Hello. We're so pleased you were able to join us. You have a presentation for us, I know, but let me ask first of all, for you to tell us about a film or a book that inspired you.
Hi, Femi, and thank you everyone for inviting me. I've been thinking since the first time you asked this question, so I think I would say Watermelon Woman, directed by Cheryl Yoon, which I know she is also in this program. And I think as a lesbian and as a non-white person, this kind of representation was really strong for me the first time I saw this film. And and also I am amazed that is this kind of content that you can see 20, 30 years after, and it's still, you are still connecting with that. And I will start. I have a big challenge because I have to talk about 2 different organizations and I think 4 different projects. So I'll try to be very brief. And also, I would like to say to apologize for my English because lately it's a little bit rusty. So I hope to not have a blackout, but sometimes happens. So I have my Google Translate here if this happens to me, okay? And if we can move this slide, Valentina, thank you so much. But in first place, I would like to talk about I work as a freelance here in Spain, and I am specialized in the content and diversity content. I worked as a diversity script and also defining policies and in terms of promoting diversity and equality in the film industry. So I work with very different organizations. One of them is the Spanish Film Academy. As any academy, they work to promote, support Spanish cinema. And they have different residencies, different programs. And one of them is a summer camp. It has this name because it's 2 weeks during July in a very beautiful place, which is Valencia, with have beach. It's a very good place to have this residency, and it's very focused on diversity. They not only focus diversity in screen, which is something that happened in Spain, since we started to talk about diversity, the industry was really focused on stories, and they didn't put the focus on teams, which I think is the most important thing. So the summer camp started to put also not only in the stories but also in teams. They have quotes. So the creators that are selected are or talking about diversity stories or part of an underrepresented group. So this edition will be the 5th. I think if we can change this slide, we will see also different projects that has been part of this summer camp. But one of them, for example, has been Sorda, directed by Eva Libertad, which has had the award, audience award at Berlinale, I think 2 years ago, something like that. And it's very inspiring to see how different projects, Campus de Verano, the summer camp, it's only 5 editions, but it's very inspiring and very, inspiring to see how different projects are having success in these terms. And Valentina, can we change the slide? Thank you. And also at the same time, during the Campus de Verano, during the summer camp, sorry, I also tweet all the time switch to Spanish. During the summer camp, the Academy organized different side activities focused on trainings or focused on educational work, let's say, to the industry. So they are designing different activities. For example, 1 year for screenwriters, 1 year for producers, 1 year for casting directors, and the idea is to give them tools and notions to also work with diversity, being able to develop this kind of project, being able to do correct call forecast or something like that. And at the same time, Valentina, if we can switch the slide, thank you. Another initiative from the Spanish Film Academy, it's the introduction of the Access Coordinator in Spain. This is a figure that in other countries I know that it's very implemented, like for example in UK, but here it's something that we never heard before, and it's very new. So the Spanish Film Academy started last year to train different professionals to being able to work as access coordinators. Obviously, disabled people had preference to be selected to be part of this training, and it's very interesting because the first edition last year, the Academy wasn't able to give title because an academy is not done in a school. But this year they joined the University of Vigo, a university here in Spain. So this year they will do 3 months of training, and they will be able to have an official title. So they will be able to justify and to show this accreditation. And at the same time, it's interesting, but because the idea is quite different as of access coordinator. It's quite different as it's been implemented in the UK, because it's my understanding. I would like to hear Layli, maybe Melanie, but in the UK, it's my understanding that this figure it's only in the set. But the Academy it's proposing that this figure will be able to be on development of the project, be also on set, and be able to do role of audio description and subtitles, meaning distribution accessibility. So it's very interesting because they are proposing the idea of this figure as a complete figure during the whole process, no, of any kind of production. And yeah, I think more or less it's everything about the Academy. If we can change the slide. Yeah, this is the team, the first edition team of the Access Coordinator. If we can change the slide. Now I will talk about Dones Visuals. Dones Visuals is an association, a women association, local, regional. It's not from Spain, it's from Catalonia. But we have 1,000 associates, which is a lot. And I think as any women association, they were born thinking that working about equality was only working on gender, but they realized really quick that this was not enough. So like 6 years ago, they started as any kind of project, collecting data, doing studies to have different kind of indicators to see what were happening with underrepresented groups. As you can see, I bring some data on teams. There are data that always are for us like very the blackout came. I was about to say that let me check. There are some numbers that are very worrying for us, like the number of Asian descendant, the number of African descendant. There are a number of Roma and Gypsy community, which it's always the 0%. The number of Native American people in teams, and the number of disability. So at the same time, if we change the slide, we have also take a look to the numbers on histories, on our characters. We have a little more bigger numbers, but in terms of quality, we were talking about a really discriminatory, really stereotype representation. So one of the focus that we did as Dones Visuals, we did different kind of actions to revert these numbers. But the one that I would like to talk here, it's, if we can change the slide, it's root action, AXIORL, root action. It's a very young action. It's like now we are on the 3rd edition. And it's an action only, it's a program, an incubator program for racialized people, meaning African descendant, Asian descendant, Roma, Gypsy, Arab, Native American, and only for women or dissident identities. And this program is very interesting because we have seen what happens when you appeal the community. No, it's like during our investigations, we realized that when you say nothing, it's like there's a not welcome implicit in the call. No, and our experience is when the call it's focus on one community, or the call is implicit, no, or has quotes, the numbers are very different. No, so in this incubator, the first year that we launched the call, we didn't had any kind of expectative in terms of numbers, because at some point we believed the narrative of the racialized people in the industry, they weren't. No. So as it happened with the gender, it happened again with race, and it's very interesting because we realized, 1 minute, okay, we realized that that we are having really great projects. They are presenting really great candidatures, and I don't know what else I would like to say about reduction, but yes, if we change the slide. Last but not least, I would like to talk about another initiative from Dones Visuals, which is a best practices guide that we did, transforming visual media. And you can download it, it's free, it's also available in English. And it's very interesting because we divided on what's happening on screen, but also what's happening behind the screen. And at the end of the guide, you will find the test. It's not a test as we know, as we understand test, but it's a guide to detect different kind of narrative. It's in terms of race, disability, orientation, gender, etc. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Perfect timing. Really good. Amazing figures there, though. I mean, obviously some worrying, but also some amazing figures around people who are queer, non-binary, etc. I thought that they looked a little bit more encouraging than they have in recent years. But no doubt more to come on that one. Please do join in with the chat here. And if you've got a favorite book or a favorite film that has inspired you, perhaps you'd like to put it into the chat as well. Well, we go over to Jerry Lee Polanco and ask her that question. What film or book has inspired you before you give us your presentation?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Okay, regarding this question, I has clear the answer. The book is Woman Who Runs with the Wolf. This is a a special book for many women around the world. This book don't need explication. Clarissa Pinkola analyze traditional histories and make a deeply review of the characters, the feminine characters. So this is a good book for me and for every woman, childs, grandmothers, everyone must to read this book.
Thank you. And now your presentation.
Okay. So, okay, I am filmmaker from Colombia. Thank you so much for this invitation. It's an honor to speak in this roundtable. I will share with all the people what I do and what I think about this topic. After a long career as a producer, a teacher, 10 years ago, through personal experience, I began to deeply question to my place in the cinema industry. I realized that I had been occupying a role that had been assigned to me, and that what is necessary to step into the spotlight. For me, this is personal experience changed my life. From this moment, I embrace my identity as a feminist filmmaker and create Kijari Cine Lab, an ecosystem for women in film in Colombia. The project was born as a way to honor the legacy of the women who have historical defense for our rights, and from a deep commitment to contribute to the struggles that are still ongoing. In Kijari starts recognizing that the patriarchal culture not only organizes our life, but also defines the way in which we narrative our world. From there, we structure 3 lines: missionary, training, visibility, and research. In training, I have developed several processes in which we integrate the gender perspective in creation and production process. And in visibility, we build a digital community that allows us to amplify the work of the women in film, not only in Colombia, in the world. And in research, we produce 2 studies on gender gaps in Colombia cinema. So I present some info about this research that are pioneers in Colombia. This is la primera, pero no la última, that analyze 500 feature film release in theaters over 60 years of the Colombia history. Based on the analysis on their technical data sheets, we analyzed the roles and found this information. Direction in cinematography, the presence of the woman is only 6%. In direction, only 13%. In script writing, 17%. And production, 18%. So this is another information, this research, that is a evolution, that if you see for each decade that the low participation of the woman in the cinema, in the Colombian cinema, there are very, very low participation. So this is our first investigation. So the second, the most recently, is La Paridad Importa. This is focused in short films with a corpus of 1,000 short films for 4 festivals in our country. We analyzed the programming themes and several roles in the short films. We found the directors of the festival are still mostly by men, so over 16%. We found also in in the other data, you can see there are in both sides on the screen, in the left side, there are the data of three of these festivals, and in the right, the data of Cine Femenino, that is a festival to programming only films made by women. So you can see only with the visual that the present in the Cine Femenino festival always is majority the presence of the woman. So this is important. This is comparison between the festivals. So, for example, in direction, the majority is almost all of the direction, and the other percentage is co-direction of the movies. So in production, equal screenwriter, the same thing. So Cine Femenino is very important for our country because make a place for women in the cinema in Colombia. So now I try to share my vision about the representation matters. The past investigation are pioneers in Colombia in gender gaps in cultural film, and this statistic visibility make us other bigger question, why does this happen? So for our experience, we did identify several problems, like mental barriers in society for recognize inequality, the dream gap that the filmmakers goes in our mind, for example, broken stairs and sticky floors, patriarchal path of silence. This is our problem that you know very much. So our mission is to change those problems, to distribute the narratives, break the status quo, decentralize the way of see, and resist the hegemonic the screen. Today, we understand that the problem is not just breaking the glass ceiling. The challenge is now the careers of the woman don't get stuck and especially grow up very much. This is important for this is all of the organization, this network of equality in film, and this kind of event that are very important to understand our problems. So it's urgent to transform, even if this is utopian, because utopian allows to move forward. We need to redistribute these narratives. So that is why this panel is important, because representation matters. We need to create a new place of enunciation. As Chimananda Adichie says, there is a danger of a single history. With a single history, we can only lose the richness of the other voice, but also perpetuate the same power structures and power in the narrative structures. So what can I do? Implement other narratives, in Kijari's educational initiative. I work, for example, with the heroine journey developed by Maureen Murdoch, a narrative structure that contrasts Joseph Campbell structures, and also an approaching narrative structures for ancestral knowledge, such as spiritual conception of the time in indigenous community, we challenge the linear idea of time. So we need to understand two things. The narrator gives power, and we need to create new space of enunciation. So it's for me very, very deeply my commitment with this aspect of focus on the industry cinema. We need to construct this to move forward to narrative sovereignty, because it's not only just about make things. This is about who has the power to tell the stories and what words make possible about in our history. So, well, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And I think that thing about new voices and making it more than one story is really important. I hope we've all got loads of takeaways from that. I'd like to thank all our speakers. I also want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to put a question in the chat to do so. We've got a Q&A session there. But I want to open up, first of all, if we could just have a little talk about how we move the dial. I was initially going to say, tell me about the state of what's going on in your countries, but you've told me that, and the data is not very comfortable to hear, is it? It must be even less comfortable to collect. But let me therefore move on to the second area that I wanted to explore, which is challenging stereotypes in practice. If I can start with Jerry, first of all, why is it important? How does the data that we have at the moment affect our ability to challenge stereotypes? You know, where could stereotypes turn up, and how can we disrupt them?
Sorry, I put some information in the chat. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, okay, you were writing. Yeah, I was just asking about where in the creative process are stereotypes often introduced, and what can we do to disrupt that?
Because we need to expand the histories, the narratives, as Shimananda say, single history is a danger. It's very dangerous for our society. So we need to new structured narrative like a heroine journey, for example, another kind of way to narrate the world. No, so. In the other statistics of my colleagues, Lee or Melanie, that share these numbers, you said that behind the scenes, the woman there are has a low participation. So we need to improve that more women and other several identities like trans woman, indigenous, Afro-Colombian. So we need to writing, directing this movie for change.
All the way across the industry.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Salima, you wanted to come in, do please, and maybe you've got some thoughts about disrupting stereotypes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I also would like to say that, well, hearing all your projects, it's like very harmful, no, heartwarming. Because sometimes when you are working in this kind of initiative, you feel very lonely, or, well, at least it's my experience. So yeah, and yeah, I agree 100%. And I was thinking about the idea that we all has unconscious bias. We as creators, as women, we are not we are not that feminist as we would like to be. No, we always have different kind of ideas that are not feminist, or we as a non-white people, we also have racist ideas on us, or we as a lesbian, we have so we have a lot of unconscious bias on us. And I was linking this to the idea that shared girly, because I was thinking on how we can break this unconscious bias, no? And it's very linked what she was saying about the single story, because there is something that as much we will have different kind of stories, we will be able of deconstructing different kind of unconscious bias, no? So that drives me to quote, that drives me to policies, and that drives me to promote in a direct way any kind of, not only women, but also underrepresented groups in terms of race, in terms of gender, in terms of identity, and etc.
Gotcha. Thank you. Let me come to Melanie. You do training. That's a lot of part of the work that you do is training, isn't it? Is there something there that would contribute to this? And what advice would you offer, say, to writers and filmmakers so they can avoid the pitfalls of this negative stereotype we're talking about?
Yeah, and I think it starts obviously in development and in the writing, and I think that at least some way to go towards this is kind of building a community around your film and being quite, diverse and intentional about the people that you involve in your process, so be they like people who are directly on your team as like producers or as co-writers, or as consultants. But I guess, yeah, making sure that you have, I guess, especially where your story speaks to a certain lived experience that you may not have, or you have characters in your film who have a lived experience that you don't have, is helping to build, starts with building a team who at least collectively do, or just bring a breadth of experience. And then I think one of the things that we try to encourage filmmakers, and is, I know how hard they find this, but is kind of trying to let your script go out for reading at the earliest possible stage that you feel comfortable doing so, first as a one-page treatment, and then for every like stage of the draft. Like, I think it's really hard for writers to kind of let go of their project, and because it makes you feel so vulnerable, right? For other people to be reading something while it's still clearly in draft. But I think that's how you get feedback, and feedback can be so useful when you're getting feedback from a breadth of people from a range of different lived experiences. One of the things that the BFI do, I know, is once a script reaches a certain stage, particularly if there are characters or stories or themes that relate to certain kind of protected characteristics, is they have what they call sensitivity readers. If a film, for example, features a character who is disabled, then there is a group of people that the that the British Film Institute hire, who will read that script and give feedback, like anonymously, but from a kind of sensitivity reading. You don't have to formalize it like that, but quite simply letting go and and allowing people who you trust, of course, but who bring different lived experiences to you, to read a project early on.
Sounds great. And I've seen there's some other resources around. Lee, have you got, are there any resources that you could recommend for perhaps for people who are actually from those marginalized communities themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Salima and Melanie just shared, that authentic authorship is key, and no stories about us without us. Like, the story, people creating the content need to look around and say, am I the one to tell this story? Are there other voices that I could bring in who have these lived experiences of what the content is about? But I think it's a lot larger than that, right? It's a systemic problem that needs a systemic solution. And here in the US, we are experiencing just a deep, extreme time of contraction and backlash. The next round of statistics will be even more depressing. Everything is, people are losing their funding, people are losing their jobs, a lot of diversity programs have been closed. And so I think it goes back to that core idea of community through the ups and the downs. This is a long game. So I'll drop a link in the chat for some
That's
resources
great.
on our website, but the bottom line is just to find community where you can. And there's so many amazing groups out there. In the States, we have, Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Chicana Directors Initiative, Women Make Movies, Women in Film. And if there's not a group for you, then start that group, like not waiting for permission. I think as marginalized creators, we can't wait for permission to tell our films. We also can't wait for permission to start changing things, because no one's going to save us but us. Like, we are the ones to keep pushing forward. So I just want to thank all of you for being on this roundtable. It's been exciting to hear what's happening in other countries around the world. And I really respect the work that Marta and Equality in Film Group is doing to connect all these various organizations in different places. I think we have a lot that we can learn from some of the quotas that are happening in Europe, which we're so far away from in the US. And it's just heartwarming to hear that there is progress being made, even though it's one step at a time.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I've just seen a message into the chat there that we're going to finish at 8 o'clock. I wonder if I could just ask you before you go, before we take some of the questions from the chat, perhaps, if you could, like, if there was one single thing that you could go, look, this is the thing that would really move the dial. This is the thing that would make the biggest difference. And I'd love to hear if any of you feel able to give me a little short answer on that before we go to some of those questions. Who's going first? Was that a hand? Go, Melanie.
Yeah, for me, I guess we've talked a lot about the kind of statistics around, the percentage of films made by women or marginalized gender filmmakers. For me, we can't talk about equity without talking about budget. So I wonder if, commissioners, funds, whatever, if they were to start thinking, instead of equity in terms of a number of films, but equity in terms of budget.
Lovely.
Because the production budget obviously affects the marketing budget, which affects particularly the opening weekend box office, which affects the amount of people who go to see that film.
Right,
And
I've
then
got budget for you, and I want to get everybody else in before
and
8
the cycle
o'clock.
starts again.
Really sorry, I need to go to the others. Somebody else, give me a thing that you think will make a huge difference. We've heard about the budget, and it goes all the way through this pipeline. Who else? What else needs to change? Go, Geraldine, go.
Yes, I think that is very important to study the statistic evidential. Yes,
Yeah.
the data allows us to move from the opinion to the certainly show us the inequality exists in the world in the cinema. The inequality in cinema exists, please. Inequality in cinema exists. Many people say, "Oh no happen." So studying the gaps, make a diagnosis of the present, make the project the future. We need to starting points, measure their impact over several periods, 3, 5, 10 years, and make the change. So.
Okay, I've got money and data. I've got Alexa in the chat. I see you there, Alexa, going, does anybody do anything about women who haven't got resources? So that's linked in there as well. Come on then, who's coming next? Lee or Salima, who's coming next?
Sure, I
One thing that will
agree.
make a difference.
We need the budget, we need the data, and I think we need a firm public commitment to equitable hiring. I think quotas work. I know they're illegal in the US, but in places where that's possible, where people have come in and just said, let's give half the funding to women, and then women make films. So what I see works is when people in positions of power use their power to open that door, open the window for the next generation, the next voices. When we see folks like Ava DuVernay with Queen Sugar, with Sean Hayter with Little America, when TV showrunners make a decision, I'm going to hire women directors, I'm going to hire filmmakers of color. When we see equal opportunity in hiring, it has this waterfall effect.
Thank you. And you're backed up here by Diego in the chat there going, count, count, count. We want everybody counting. Salima, have you got something to say on this?
No, I was thinking about the idea that Melanie pointed the BFI, which I think sometimes I look at the BFI and the diversity standards, I look at as a dream for Spain, as something that amazing that could happen to us. Also, I know that in USA you don't have public funds as but at least your academy are applying the diversity standards in the Oscar for the Best Picture. Is that correct? I think so. And also in Australia, they are applying something very similar to diversity standards. So I think it's something that has been applied in different territories with different realities. And I think it's something that has been working. So from Donas Visuals, we have been in touch with Deborah Williams, which is the architect of the diversity standards, to see how we can apply them, we as Donas Visuals know, our institutions, our funds can apply them, because I think it's something that will or could solve the endogamics dynamics that are now in the Spanish industry. Yeah.
Thank you. And we've got some other people saying, what do we do here? Talking about Spain here, saying there's a deep conception about each different group, and it's hard sometimes to get everybody included. Very much so. So thank you very much for all of that. I hope you find it really useful to know about the resources that are around, and know about the things that have inspired different people to work in the area. And I love some of the things that we've got by way of takeaway. I think I've covered all the questions. There's one here from saying, how do we bring forward these so-called parity dates to next week? Yeah, maybe that might be a good idea to close them. Take a magic wand from somewhere or another, and maybe if you're up for a little one-liner so that we can finish at 8 o'clock. For you it'll be 8 o'clock. That would be good. Not everyone has to answer, but is there something that would really make a huge difference, more than money, more than data, faster than systemic change? What would it be? I'm not sure I know. Oh, maybe it's this person who's put a new message. Maybe they know what it would be. No, they're just saying thank you. Okay, we can all think on that one. This is what I'd like to say as a young lesbian a young Black lesbian coming out in the very just late 70s. Any films that I saw from then going on for the next 10 years, the lesbians that I saw were nearly always white, and they nearly always either ended up going straight at the end of the film, or they became murderous, or they got murdered, they died. And thanks to people like you who are on this call today, actually that's very different for me and for others like it now. And actually at the British Film Institute was where I saw some of those very first films that shut the dial, like Desert Hearts and so on. I think that we can close by saying thank you very much to the organisers of the event. Thank you very much to all of our contributors. We were thrilled to have I'm sounding like I'm on LinkedIn now, but we are thrilled to see so many of you here online today. Don't forget, tomorrow, coming up, we're looking at violence and power issues, sexual harassment and so on in the industry. And as our company helped write the briefing for BAFTA there, so we'll be very interested in that. And we get to see an interview with Cheryl Donier, the director of and everything else of The Watermelon Woman. Thank you so much. It's been great. I hope you've had a good time. I'm handing back to Marta. Marta, go ahead.
Thank you. Guadalupe will just be closing the event, and we also have some final credits for the thing. Yeah. Guadalupe, just go ahead.
Thank you, Marta. It's been very inspiring. All your experiences are amazing. I really thank you all. Thanks all the team, and thanks everybody for being here. We'll meet tomorrow.